So welcome again to Fruitful Investment Strategies. If you've not followed us before, my name is Kambai, and we're going to talk about China, the trade war which is going on, and this will be a great conversation. So make sure that you actually share this live, share the live, guys, share the live with many more, share the live with people. I want to have a conversation with you tonight. So make sure that you share the live. And we're going to set in a moment. So please do not hesitate to share our live. Click on, and we're going to have a wonderful time together. So we're going to have a really wonderful time together. So make sure that you share the live and click on as well. So just for your information, you can both follow us on TikTok and on YouTube. So that is possible. It's the same name, Fruitful Investment Strategies, both on TikTok and on YouTube. So where you can actually follow us, and you have, all the latest information that we have actually, and we put there. So you guys know what is happening actually in the world today. The United States just imposed, tariff. They imposed tariff on across the world. Every country has had tariff. So every country is under tariff, and they are being heavily taxed. Heavily taxed. There is no country that has not yet been taxed by the United States. So you have tariffs, China 34%. You have all the countries being actually taxed. Let me look for a list here. So you have China, which has 34% tariffs. You have the European Union, which is 20% tariffs. You have Vietnam, which is actually 46% tariffs. That is a lot, guys. That is not some small numbers. And then you have Taiwan, 32% tariffs. What is Taiwan selling to these countries or the United States? Is chips, mostly chips. And these are technological things. So Japan is actually at 24% tariff. So what the United States did, it did not just, focus on its enemies, but it focused on everybody. Everybody is being taxed, and there is no one that is excluded. India, for example, is 26% tariffs. So you see, all across these nations, South Korea, 36% tariffs, and that is a lot. Switzerland, 31% tariffs. Indonesia, 24% tariffs. Malaysia, Indonesia, 32% tariffs. Malaysia, 24% tariffs. And you have Colombia or Cambodia, 49% tariffs. And the list just goes on and on and on and on. So this is a great list. It has tax and the developing countries and the developed countries and the middle class countries, what you can say. So the United States has been really there and trying to tax all these nations, bringing them actually on taxes. So that is really what is really hitting right now, because tariffs, that is just a tax on the commodities that has been imported in the country that is importing, and the commodities are being taxed. I mean, I don't know how many percentage they can put from 10% up, as Donald Trump has put it. So you have, let's say you are buying a commodity, you're buying it at $40, or let's say $100, and then you buy it from China. So you are taking it from China, and then you are taking it to the United States. So so if you're gonna sell it, let's say if there is no tariffs, this commodity is going to be sold at a price of $500. But if this is taxed, actually, let's say there is tariff on it. Let's say there is tariff of 50%, then it goes to 150, which means the commodity price, if this one goes to 150, which means it has to be increased by what? By 50%, which is, instead of you buying it at 500 in the United States, you're going to buy it at 7,750. And that is an increase of 50% in the price of the commodity. So that is because of tariffs. So you see, for example, Chinese cars are not being able cannot be sold in the United States because the tariff actually on the cars is 100%. The tariff on the car is 100%. And that makes it very difficult for Americans to actually buy a car that expensive, because the government is taxing 100% of the car. And then you have not only that, but you have also the company which is importing those cars has to increase the price at 100% to get the what? To get the profit. So you have the car which is bought at 100% is increased to 200% its value. So let's say you bought the car at $10,000. Now the car has to be not only sold at $10,000 but at $200,000. So that's what tariffs brings. And with those kind of prices, when the price is actually doubled, the Chinese cannot compete in the American market. So it becomes very difficult for the Chinese to compete in the American market, and hence they have to run away from the American market and look for somewhere else. But you know what? Because there is this global introduction of the green energy. You guys have heard of the green energy propaganda, which has taken all over Europe. So Europe is actually on the drive seats with China on the what? On the clean energy propaganda. So China has been very smart. They have produced wind turbines. They have the technology and they produce those things, wind turbines. They produce the solar panels. They have the technology and they have the materials. They produce the cars. They produce every green thing, all the materials that is actually goes with it. And not only that, but they have gone to Africa as well to secure the raw materials. So the Chinese have secured raw materials in Africa. And these raw materials, it's the Chinese companies which are actually guaranteeing that the raw materials reach China in good and well time. And with those raw materials, there is a production of the what? There is a production of cars and all those commodities that other parts of the world needs. So what they do, they take actually these raw materials, they produce cars and they produce items that is needed by the world, and then they sell it to the world, to Europe. Europe is very dependent on the green energy, and then they can sell it to Europe. Not only do they sell it to Europe, but they can sell it also across the world. Across the world, these commodities go, and they have a very big market, and they have secured their market. The Chinese have secured totally their market. They've just secured their game. They're in the game and they are securing it. And that's what actually is making it very difficult for any other nation to compete against the Chinese. They are winning the game because they have not only secured the raw materials, they have secured the market as well across the world. They have secured the technology. They have the best technology. Look, if you go on my YouTube, you can watch actually some of these Chinese cars that I'm posting. BYD has the best cars in the world on the market. You cannot compete either technological wise or price wise. The Americans cannot outcompete BYD. Not only BYD, you have also Voya. Voya is a Chinese car, which is very good. No American company can outcompete Voya. And that is really So the Chinese have really taken all the market into their hands. So because of that, there was fear from Europe. Europe was fearing that if they leave the Chinese invading their market, then there will be actually a monopoly. So the Europeans started with taxing the Chinese, putting the tax rate at 34%. So there was that tariff of Europe that was at 34%. But because of the American tariff, which has been imposed not only on Europe, not only on the Chinese, but on everybody. So because the tariff has been imposed on everybody, the Europeans have to open, they're forced to open the market for the Chinese. Now the Europeans are going to actually discuss how to actually remove those tariffs and to have actually to make a way so that the Chinese commodities, the Chinese cars, the Chinese commodities can come in Europe free. So you remove those tariffs and then you have actually a free market. And in the free market, who benefits? Europe is one of the greatest markets. I mean, the biggest, one of the biggest markets, if not the greatest market after the United States. So you have all that. And Europe is winning. But not only the Chinese are not only depending on Europe, but they have also the Russians. So when Russia was actually excluded from the global agenda, the Chinese took over the market that Europe had, the market dominance that Europe had. And that's what led actually to the commodities of the Chinese to be flooding the Russian market. And by flooding the Russian market, they were also flooding the world market. So they were actually laying a base. The Chinese were laying a base, and these were actually flooding the market with their commodities. They were flooding the market with their cars, flooding the market with their industries, flooding the market with everything that they had. And now the Chinese are controlling the Russian market. Let's say drones, for example, the Chinese are into them. Let's say cars, for example, the Chinese are into them. Let's say, for example, what do you say, computers. Everything comes from China. It's made in China. Apple, the Apple for iPhones, they're made in China. The iPads, everything is actually made in China. So you have that market which is actually controlled, and the China are making sure that everyone is dependent on them. Because now they have the AI technology. They're the best in AI technology. America thought to be actually before them. But you see what the apps that they are producing. And one of them is actually TikTok. When you look at TikTok, TikTok is much more better than any American app that you can find out there. So TikTok is very fast, and TikTok really have the best videos that you the best technology that you have. So the algorithm is actually better in TikTok than in any other or YouTube or whatever you have out there. So the Chinese have actually gained, and they have taken control of the AI technology. You can see even their videos. Bonsoir, Frère Abraham. So you can see even their videos. Their videos are actually much more advanced. You can see even their apps. When you have these apps, AI apps and research apps, which is actually much more developed. And that is what the Chinese are actually doing right now. They have taken all over the world. But let me tell you one thing which maybe you did not know. The Chinese, not only are they flooding their goods into the world, but they're making sure that everybody is dependent on their goods. So you cannot live without those things which are produced in China. No way. All the Africans, true businessmen in Africa, they're dealing with China at top level. Because China is bringing in the knowledge and building infrastructure in Africa. So you have, for example, commodities from Zambia, commodities from Congo. Let's say the raw materials that Congo produces, the copper, the iron, and everything that comes with it. What do? They send it directly to China. And China, what does it do? it actually produces, takes these raw materials, work on them, and what do? They build something with it, and then they sell it back to Africa again. So they make commodities which actually can be sold to Africans again, which makes Africa a great market for these people. They make Africa a great market for these people. And not only Europe, but you have also market flooded by the Chinese in Africa. But look, they go even far. What do? Not only they flood their goods in Africa, but they have also their people. They install their population, their own population in Africa. That is different. So they're implanting the population in Africa. So when they are implanted in Africa, the Chinese in Africa becomes rich. They become rich, and now they're creating an economy within an economy. So you have Africa, but you have Chinese in Africa who are rich and powerful enough, like the countries they're living in, and then they create I can say an economy in there, which they do not have to depend on the ingenious Africans. So they do not have to depend on the ingenious Africans. And by that, when they do not depend on the ingenious Africans, which means they become dependent on them on their own, they have the labor, they have the money, they have also the minerals. So they will control the entire chain. And then what you find yourselves? You find yourselves with nothing at the end. So at the end, you find China winning it all. It is a system that actually the West did before. They were controlling the slave trade, the slave trade triangle. They were the one buying the slaves, and they were the one selling the slaves. They were the one exporting the slaves. They started even exporting the slaves themselves. So you see, that is what is actually building here. China is building a great market and a great strategy. Because what do? They're buying ports in Europe. Ports in Europe they're buying. And once they buy those ports, they will be sending their goods to actually be received on their ports. And what do they have on their ports? They have Chinese labor. They have Chinese technology as well. So the money, not only is it going to them, but the money is being consumed by them, which makes it actually very difficult for the Euro or for other countries actually to benefit from this. But there is one thing that actually people can benefit from that, and that is actually the know-how, the technology that the Chinese have, which makes actually the commodities that the Chinese do deliver across the world very cheap and affordable. Africa could not afford these things which the West was selling to them. Let's say a car which actually the West was bringing to us, a German car, a BMW, could cost, for example, $500, $500,000. Let's say $500,000, and an African man could not afford it. But when the Chinese comes with their car, which is actually much more well developed and well established, what do? They remove, not only do they, because they have the raw materials and everything that is needed, their car is not at $500,000. Their car is actually much more cheaper to $50,000. That is a deal breaker. That is a deal breaker. So that being said, the United States is actually struggling for the moment. I don't think it can really achieve its goals. It cannot really do anything for the moment. Everything is actually gone for the loss for the Trump administration. Nothing. I don't think Trump will actually be able to keep this going. Trump cannot keep this war going. He has to make a deal, and the deal has to be made fast, because what is happening, since Trump is actually putting tariffs on his foes and on his allies, which means he makes his allies and his foes go against him. And then they're actually forming, I can say, a very union, and then they're coming together. So you have Europe and China coming together and working together, and they're reducing their tariff. They're making that tariff actually low. And by making that tariff low, which means Europe and China, they're actually gaining in this. And the United States, which is a great market, is actually losing on this. So when they actually lose and they make their allies and their foes going together, they are making their foes much more stronger than them, because the United States is going to lose in this because they have taxed everybody. So they're going to lose, which means they're making actually China to develop the market and to become much more independent without the United States. You remember Russia. Russia was taxed. Russia was actually sanctioned. And by sanctioning Russia, it's developed other ways to actually develop not only economy, but its army as well. So now Russia now has the greatest army in the world, and this army is fighting against the entire Western dominance. So you can have a domino effect of what Trump is doing with China. So you have actually the Chinese becoming much more stronger than what the United States did not actually want and did not expect to happen. So that is very something which I think the Trump administration has to watch for and to be very careful on how actually they proceed in this matter, because it's going to hurt them. And hurting them, they're businessmen. And I've heard, I'm not sure, but I've heard people in the administration and outside of the administration saying that people who actually had the knowledge of how the market was going to go. We saw that Trump had actually tweeted. He had tweeted, please make sure that you give us some hearts here. You give us some hearts so that this video can be recommended. Please click on our live, please. And, come in. Just click on, come in and into. So people, we're saying that because Trump gave actually he gave a hint of how the market is going to be. And he told people that was the great time to actually buy. So people were buying and the people won billions of dollars. Yes, some traders won a lot of money. One won up to $2 billion. The other one won up to $900 million. So we are talking about the rich winning a lot of money. But those that were not informed, they lost a lot of money, an enormous amount of money. I posted that video on TikTok and on YouTube. So you can see how many people are really crying in terms of that. So people lost their money. But I think those who had inside information, those who listened to Trump, they did actually have the possibility to actually have a lot of money and to trade in good terms and to have to have a great benefit due to what the administration had told them. Now, this is, I've said it in my previous video, this is going to work two ways. Either he loses and he's going to lose it big, because that can cause actual recession, and which means the American people are going to find things very hard, which means they're going actually to have the commodities very high, and they cannot afford, America cannot afford to actually have a very high commodities, very expensive commodities that are coming from China. America cannot afford to have that. America cannot afford to have that. America is dependent on cheap goods which are coming from China to keep its population satisfied. Because look, Chinese are not very wealthy like Americans, but Chinese, I know, they can survive and they can live with hardship. Even though their countries is the most developed nation in the world. Yes, I say the most developed nation in the world, because the infrastructure of China is not compared at any country at all. You cannot compare the infrastructure of China with the United States. No, it's much more developed. And this is a very new country per se. It's a very new country in terms of this century development, and it's actually developing very fast because it has actually acquired a lot of technology. There has never been a country that has developed as fast as the Chinese in the recent history that we know of the world powers. So because of their knowledge, because of their I can say technology, the Chinese have really been developing very fast. So I think the Americans need to negotiate with the Chinese. They need to work out something which will actually help them to actually have those commodities which they need, the people need, cheap into America. If those things do not come, then you have two things. You have a collapse of the American economy. You have also a risk of destabilizing the nation, a risk of destabilizing the nation. So that risk is there. But the thing is, America need to work this as fast as possible. This is not a matter of if and when. It's a matter of doing it right now and doing it as fast as possible. So those are the thing. And the confidence of America is being lost because this trade war started not because actually America had a surplus in trade, but I think it was a shake. America was shaken somewhere. It's lost its confidence. America is losing its confidence as a great power. It has been shaking. It has been, trying to see, can I walk on this ground? America is it's trying. It's trying. America is not really moving. Please give us some love, some hearts. America is shaking. It's not sure of how things are going to be and how things are. And by doing that, it's actually bringing itself to hurt and it's hurting itself. America is really hurting itself. It's hurting its economy. It's hurting its markets. It's hurting its allies. It's hurting its, America is hurting everybody and himself. And that is the issue here. So the confidence has been lost. There is no confidence that America can do better anymore because the technology, the AI technology has been taken to the chips. They're in Taiwan. The Chinese have produced their own chips, even though the Americans put the embargo on them. But the Chinese chips are even much more better and much more faster. So America is actually in a limbo. They don't know what to do. And the only thing they think they can do is actually poke. And they're poking what? The panda. But the thing is, if you keep on poking the panda, there is a possibility that it hurts you as well. There is a possibility that the panda scratches you. And that is what is happening here. We are seeing actually world market treachery. We saw last time that the market went really down and traders lost a lot of money. Why? Because of uncertainty in the market. So if there is a lot of uncertainty in the market, it actually produces chaos. And that is the chaos that you keep seeing in the market because one point America says, I'm going to sanction all the nations and I'm going to put tariff on them. And the other time it says, okay, we're going to put a pause of 30 days on them. There is this uncertainty in the market, and this uncertainty, it also makes the investors somehow start doubting if America is a reliable partner. And that can lead to actually Chinese start selling their bonds. So once they are the greatest owner of American bonds, once the Chinese start selling their bonds, which means we are in trouble, America is in trouble, which means there is a great collapse of the American economy. And if that happens, it will be the greatest collapse that had never happened because it will be greater than the Great Depression. America has a debt of over $300 trillion. And that is not few. That is a lot of money. No country in the world has such a debt. No country in the world ever uses that kind of amount of a budget. It's a lot of money, and America cannot repay it. It's a heavy, and that's why Donald Trump is doing this in order to save the country, because they have seen that if America continues on this rate, it's going to be soon bankrupt. America is going to be soon declared bankrupt and out of what? Out of business. And you know what they do to a bankrupt company? They take all the assets that the company has, and they sell them. And then they give the creditors the money. So let's say, for example, the company has cars, it has buildings, it has uh, infrastructures that's actually in there. So if that company goes bankrupt, the company has to sell its computers, it has to sell its buildings, it has to sell its cars, all the things that the company owns, they have to sell them. And after selling them, they take the money and then they give it to what? They give it to the credit owners. Thank you for the love. They give it to the credit owners, and the credit owners, they take actually the money. Hello, brother. Hello, brother. How are you there? Really nice to see you. So they have to give this to the credit owners. And these credit owners, they take the money, and then that company is bankrupt. So imagine America being bankrupt. When America goes bankrupt, the government has to sell all its assets, all its buildings, all its lands, all that America owns. And then they have to take that money, which actually they have actually sold all these assets, and they give it to the creditors. And you have no country anymore. Then you have America, then does not exist anymore. Then it becomes a country which is owned by the lenders. And most of these lenders, we know these are the Jewish people. Yes, they're the Jewish people. They have a lot of money. The Rockefellers, those people, they own a lot of things. And they're the one actually owning, America is owning a lot of money to those people, the bankers, the wealthy people in across the world. You know, they're never on the list of Forbes. They are above the list of Forbes. They own trillions, and their money cannot be calculated because they have wealth untold. You know, hidden wealth, and those are hidden very far that nobody can actually allocate them. They don't own they own Wall Street, but they never trade on Wall Street because they own the American dollar. So this American dollar is theirs. They own it, and they run it. They run it, and the American government is actually the one borrowing or actually taking money from them. So you have a system in America which is actually very dangerous for a nation. So that system, once America falls away, America has to sell its birthright to these individuals, these Jewish individuals. And once America has sold its birthright to these Jewish individuals, guys, give me some. Keep clicking on the screen, please. Keep clicking on the screen. You know, once they sell their birthright, America sells its birthright, then America can no longer go into business anymore. America is bankrupt. So that's how the debt system works. So you are actually owned. You are actually owned by the people that are lending you the money. Yeah. If you can pay, they come and they take everything you own. If you can pay, they come and they take your bed. They come and take your sofa. They come and take your cars. They come and take everything you have, and then they go. They put it on the sale, and then they sell it at any price. They take their money, and if they have not collected enough from that, they will still come back again. Oh my. So you're going to be on the streets because of credit, because of debt. So that is really interesting to see how actually this is going to go, how this is going to work, because we are hoping that this thing can actually work, because America cannot afford to actually be in debt again, and it has to work. So I was following today, and they're saying that You see, since actually Donald Trump entered in, all the workers have been fired. All these workers have been fired. The federal workers, they have been fired. And they're no longer actually working in the federal government because America wants to spare money. But look, even if you have to spare money, but I think the federal workers should be the people you should protect the most. So if a country is actually able to fire its federal workers, then that country is not able to take care of itself. It's not care to take off its system. And the system cannot move as smooth as it should because you're firing the people who are actually doing the great job to maintain that country. And once you get those people out of the way, you are really hurting yourself. You're hurting yourself. It's like saying, hey, my hand is actually costing me a lot. Let me just break my hand. And then, because my hand is sick, let me break it. Well, then you're actually causing more harm to yourself. And that's what America is doing. It's causing more harm to itself by actually firing those federal workers. But the thing is, we have to take things very calm. America has to be very careful on how it's trading because it's making now wars. The war is no longer away from America as it used to be. America had wars in Iraq. It has wars in Afghanistan. It had wars in Pakistan. It had wars in those faraway countries in Iran and all that, in Europe and all that. But now America is not dealing with the wars far away. America is dealing with the wars within. Now the war have come back home. You can see it's actually struggling with protecting its borders. America is fighting against Canada and saying, hey, the fentanyl crisis is too much. So you have to actually make sure that you seal the border so that we don't have people crossing over here and actually giving us trouble with fentanyl. So America is doing that. And that is a problem in itself. And the other thing, it's not only the fentanyl problem, but down with Mexico, you have foreigners, you have immigrants moving away from the South, and they all want to go to the United States, to flood the United States of America, because they want workers. And America can give them wages, because America has a promise of a better future. So all these people are coming into the United States to seek for a better future, which is actually harming the United States in one way, and in the other way, if it's not well managed, hello, hello, how are you doing there?
Kannst du auch Deutsch?
No, I can't speak Dutch, I'm sorry.
Alles gut,
Yeah.
nicht so schlimm. Gibt Schlimmeres. Was machst du? Du verstehst mich ja.
Yeah. So America can't actually keep going on because you have all these immigrants who are actually going to Northern America, and then when they're going to Northern America, what they're flooding that market, and when they're flooding that market, which, well, we are talking about. Yes, it is. Hello, IX. It is the collapsing of an empire. Yes, it is. It is that. So you have all that. You have all that's really happening because it is just the drawing plan. Yeah, 30 years is a lot. 30 years is a lot. I think this is just a domino effect, which is actually going to take it very, 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 very fast. So I think it's time for America to be really thinking, and this is really going to affect it very, very badly. It's going to kill this nation. America is a great nation with great people who have actually made the entire world wealthy. America is this great nation, proud, a nation that loved God, a nation. But now America, what? Immorality is full in America. Impossible to think of this thing. Immorality is really crazy in America. I was in Washington. I was saying, what? Washington? How you could see really all these gay people everywhere. You know, I'm saying, in this America that we knew of Washington and of these people were Christians, I mean, immorality has taken over America. And America is actually spreading that. But while America is into these immoral things, and while America is walking into this immoral life, nations like China are building themselves up. Countries like Russia are becoming much more stronger. You know, countries like Africa, Africa is rising up again, there is all these nations which are taking over. Why? Because America is so consecrated on the immorals. Immorality has become really a playing ground for America. And when you have immorality of women in a nation, it destroys the nation. A woman is actually a very important person in the society. If you do not take care of a woman, if you do not educate a woman, if you do not keep a woman morally, then you are not only destroying that woman, but you are destroying a nation. Look, the sign of a falling empire, remember with Rome, was actually women, drinking, immorality. I can go all the way back to Babylon. Babylon, it was actually in the days of Nebuchadnezzar. You could see women. Women were actually taking a greater space in that sphere. Please make sure that you send us some hearts and that you click on the screen. Please make sure that you click on the screen and you enter in. Click on the screen and enter in and give us some hearts. Share this live, please. So you see, women really are the one who brought the empire of Babylon to its collapse. Immorality, drinking, women, sex. Sex is the thing that brings really a nation down. A nation which concentrates on sex is a nation which does not think anymore of its development. A nation which does not think anymore is a nation that cannot actually do anything. That's why you see fentanyl. New York is really full of drug. You see the American youth is into drugs. Look at the rap music. What was it used to? To destroy the black community. They destroyed the black community with rap. And what did rap do? Not only did it destroy the black, but it also destroyed those who were trying to destroy them. And now you have drugs flooding all kind of race. Because rap music, as influential as it has influenced every kind of society. And not only the music, but it comes also with the actions which are done in the music. You have women shaking their bodies, and you have people smoking. What did it do? It influenced everywhere. It's entered everywhere. Hollywood, what did it do? Hollywood is all about showing naked women and all that. And then what does it do? It influences every society it creeps in. And when it creeps in, it destroys all the women. Everything that a woman is supposed to be is taken away. Motherhood is taken away. Female, just to be a female is taken away. And what you have immorals. People are unable to, they don't know even their sex. They don't know if they're male or they're female. And when in a nation or in a family, for that sake, you have somebody who does not know if they're male or they're female, that family is heading for the destruction. In a nation where you don't know, people don't know if they're male or female, that family or nation is headed for the total destruction. And that's what we have in America. America is a very destroyed nation. America is a very now there is no way that nation can be actually redeemed. There is no way. No matter how many Washington this nation can actually elect or send, it's just headed for self-destruction. Headed for self-destruction. But the thing is, people of the world, we have to be careful. Because when the ship sinks, it's not only captain that sinks. The captain takes the people with him. And America is not going to sink alone. It's going to make sure that it sinks with everybody. Everybody that is actually with it. Everybody that is with it is going to sink with it. So they will actually make sure they create the World War III, and war comes at a with a lot of expense. So you have America fighting Russia, fighting China. What do you have? That world war is going to destroy the entire earth. It's going to destroy the entire earth. It's going to take the entire earth with it. So that's why we have to be careful when we see these trade wars. These trade wars are really dangerous, not only for America, but they're dangerous for you. They're dangerous for you and for me. We have to be very careful how we actually entreat these wars. Because these wars, this economy war, well, I don't know how long we have, but I think we don't have a long time. China is very developed as well. They have the world's most developed systems. But today, it's not about development either. It's about having that red button. And once you click on that red button, developed or not, you're all going for the sink. So the thing is, let's wait and see. Maybe Africa, that will be the place which will not actually have those bombs falling on it, because they don't have those bombs. So that will be actually the much more safer place to be. But as for all these nations, they're going to be in the ditch. They're going actually to face the heat of that atomic power. So guys, I've not received the hearts. You know, I would have really loved if some of you received gave me the hearts and you know, and shared this live. But you know, I'm very thankful to actually have talked to you. And I don't know if somebody, you know, I would have loved to have the much more comments here. But I really thank you guys, both on TikTok and on YouTube. The name is the same. You can go on YouTube. You can subscribe on it. You can go on TikTok. You can also subscribe there. It's Fruitful Investment Strategies anyway on both channels. So I think I'll be actually going to hold some lives so that we can actually get acquainted as well, you know, and talk much more about economy, because there is a lot of things happening in the economy right now. A lot of things happening in the economy and a lot of things happening in the world. So the thing is, we have to be really informed about what is happening in the world and how it's actually affecting each and every one of us in terms of our businesses, in terms of our development, because this is really interesting. It's really interesting. So we are really looking forward to see how the trade war is going to go between China and the USA, because now America raised its taxes or its tariff at 145%, but China as well increased its tariff to 125%. So they are not, neither side is actually giving up. And we have heard that the Chinese side are saying that the Americans are playing with the numbers, and if they're going to continue, they have other ways to hurt them. So the thing is, if China is actually going to touch that bond, the bond market, which actually China has actually most of the bond, which actually the one in America, which is going to sink the American economy down. So the thing is, if we have an American economy which is sinking down, the world is going to sink with it, because the dollar is actually the currency which dominates the entire economy. The world economy is based on the dollar. If you're going to sell oil, for example, it's all based on the dollar. So that's why actually America always go to war, because when the dollar is threatened, it's the American power hegemony which is actually threatened as well. So you have that happening as well. So all the things we have to actually be acquainted with, to see how things are going in the world, to see how actually people are playing out. Bonjour frère Richard, que Dieu bénisse. So we have all those things happening, and there is all these fights that is actually going on between these two nations. So and it's really well to be informed about that. So that is it. So there is also a lot of actually corruption that is actually happening in the United States, even though it's not visible, but a lot of corruption has entered into that nation. And people know when they're going to trade, and people know when they're not going to trade, when they're going to go in the market, when they're not going to go in the market. That in itself is corruption. It's a form of corruption. And once you see that corruption start entering, it means that the nation is actually collapsing. So so we are seeing what Trump is going to do today. Is he going to increase more rates on the Chinese goods, tariffs? Is he going to increase more tariffs on the Chinese goods or commodities, or is he going to actually give up? So we are waiting to see, and we are all looking forward to see if things are going to change. If they do change, well, it's good. If they're not, then there is much more harm and hurt which are going to happen in the market. I would really love someday to invite an economist and to hear their point of view on this issue, which I think would be really much more helpful in terms of helping us to understand what is really going on. So this might actually lead to the American dollar to decrease its value. And and once it loses its value, it's actually a risk for the United States to actually be the country that they want to be. So it will actually destroy the United States if this American dollar loses its value. The American dollar has to be actually one of the greatest currency. But you heard it today that the American dollar lost its value against the euro since, I don't know, this is actually since 2009 or something like that. So the American dollar, once it becomes weak, you have less investments coming into it, and people are really not relying onto it, and that may lead investments away. Maybe people may start investing in the euro, but or in other currencies like yuan or like yen. They might start into that, or maybe buying gold, more gold. So that is actually one thing. And that's risk to destroy the American economy, because the trust has been destroyed. And once the trust has been destroyed, there is no more there is no more trade which can actually be made. So you see, economy is built on what? On trust. If there is no trust in an economy, it just cannot work. It just destroys, it falters. And that's what we're trying to see here in the United States, is that Tesla, Elon Musk is actually losing. He is losing a lot of hope in the American system, and he said that it is the self-inflicting wound that Donald Trump is setting on himself. Ellen, the former secretary of she was actually the one who was actually responsible of the dollar thing, and she said that America is actually self-inflicting the wound on itself. So America is actually hurting itself. So we see this is actually going to be a very big thing. So we wait and see how it's going to develop itself, and how America is going to come out of this issue. Please, I would love to have some some hearts, sharing this live with many other people. That is really encouraging for me, and that is really something that I would have loved. So if you have not subscribed either on YouTube, either on your TikTok, it's the same, Fruitful Investment Strategies. Go and subscribe with us and join us actually. So that's what we do. We share, the information with you, and so that you can be informed about what is happening globally when it comes to trade, when it comes to development. We want actually each and every one of you, because look, the market is affecting everybody. Either you like it or not, you are affected, because once they put tariff on the goods, the prices increase. Those people who are bringing commodities, they bring them at the price, and then the tax, and then they just increase the price for us, and then those people who are paying, they carry the burden of that tax which has been put. So the thing is, commodities really, they're going to increase in the United States. You're going to see a lot of commodities which are going up into, let's even car parts, for example. They come from Mexico and they come from Canada, and once they increase the price, which means Americans are going to pay for more. And then if Americans are going to sell their commodities to, let's say, to China, because a lot of soya comes actually from America and goes to China, and the Chinese are going to tax them. So which means actually the farmers are going to be hurt even much more, because they can't sell their commodities because the tax is so high. And and the Chinese cannot buy those soya because actually the tax are so high. So the thing is, it's actually destroying the global market, and people are thinking that it's going to create jobs. No, it can't create jobs at the same time. It will really be a broken system for a while, because China has the most developed system. They have the most developed AI system, and the AI system can produce anything. So the thing is, America has to be very careful how it goes with this. You have to prepare first the ground. You have to lay first the ground. You have to build factories. You have to build production lines. Once you have done that, then you can start calling the markets or the companies back home. But America did not have that, and then they are rushing into calling companies. Once you're calling the companies home, they have to invest large amount of money to build, to train actually people to do the work, and to do all those things that are actually needed. And if they do not do that, then you have a problem. You have a problem. And that problem is, you cannot fix it in 2 years or in 3 years or in 4 years. That problem is actually to be fixed. Some experts are saying 20 years. So who's going to wait for 20 years? Because in 20 years, you have a new generation which has come up, and then you have a bankrupt generation which is actually in debt, which cannot be paying its debt, and then you have a country which is bankrupt. So and then you have no country anymore, because you have sold it to the debt have been sold, and then you have to sell your country to the debtors. That is the challenges that the United States has, how to actually manage these two things so that the economy does not collapse, which is actually going to that point. But the thing is, you have to manage to play, at a certain point, that the economy does not collapse, and at the same time, you are not hurting yourself in terms of the people that are living there. So and then you are not leading yourself into a debt that you cannot pay. So the thing is, it's all there. It's all there. America has to do it one way or the other. But the thing is, it was there, and they have to actually live with it. So we'll see how the development is. We're expecting actually Donald Trump to react to the Chinese tariff, and we'll see what it brings. And if it takes war, then let them bring it on, and then we'll see what the Chinese will do the next, because this is a war between two nations, between two countries, and I think it's a war between two children, and they're fighting, to see who's gonna win, and we're gonna see because this is hurting people on both sides of the Atlantic, and mostly the poor are hurted much more in these countries because the poor cannot afford, and the poor cannot afford to actually the prices to be reasonable because the poor do not have the means. And I'm talking about the United States because that is an economy. It's a great economy, but once you do not have anything in America, you don't have it. And then you cannot live. In America, if you do not have anything and if you do not work, you will not eat. You're going to sleep outside. So this is something which I know, and this is something which is true. So once you don't have anything in America, you're not gonna live. So that's the thing. America has actually to think. And Donald Trump, our beloved president, let him think. Let him think of how he's going to fix this situation. Because if he does not fix it as soon as possible, then America is in a mess. Is in a mess. This is my take, and I hope that you enjoy this live. And please, guys, make sure that you live it and you share with me. So God bless you and see you next time.